Okay, so I usually don't make videos in general, and especially when it comes to political stuff, sensitive topics like that. Usually I just ramble on that while I'm on stream, but right now I just saw so many of my friends on Facebook, my people I really care for, being so, angry at what's going on, that I decided I should probably give I should probably just speak out and just let you know what I think. I don't know if you care about what I think. Entirely up to you. If you choose to watch this video, please do listen to the end for what I'm saying, because a lot of these things need elaboration, and it's a very sensitive topic, so it's not easy. It's not easy to navigate this. So I'll do my best, and I'll try to stay as straight to the point as possible. So this is about the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Mainly, I'm not really going to talk about anything else. I just wanted to talk about this one and how I see certain things. I don't claim to be an American. I am from Guatemala. I was raised there. I lived in Boston for 6, almost 7 years, and right now I live in Hungary. Hungary. Sometimes it's difficult to pronounce that name. And even after leaving the US, I still keep an eye on the politics, on the news, and all that kind of stuff, just because it's something so fascinating to me, and it's such just such an intense thing, and I really love the United States. It's such an amazing country. It really is. I am happy where I'm at. Hungary is an amazing country. I am happy here. The food is better. Uh, the food is better. But if I had the chance, I would go back to America and live there as well. I wouldn't say no to one opportunity like that. I'm happy where I'm at. I wouldn't say no going back because of how the US is, and I would say not so much in spite of or because of what has happened in this past week. So, you probably heard the news. Roe v. Wade, the case held by the Supreme Court back, I think, in the 1970s, that instated abortion on a federal level, was overturned. And I, being me, decided not to read the headlines not to just read the headlines, not to just read the articles, but I went into the damn document itself, the damn opinions. I am still in the syllabus, but one of the points in the syllabus, a few of the points of the syllabus, which is like the summary of the whole thing before they go on into their legal speech, like the syllabus is very layman friendly, I would say. There's only been like 2 or 3 things that I've had to check what they mean in legal terms. So if you can give it a read as well, it gives a very straightforward summary of the reasoning behind the ruling and everything. I'm gonna leave a link to the document, which is just a copy of the opinion given by the Supreme Court, and I think it's super important because the headlines I'm seeing, the articles I'm seeing from almost every major newspaper is hyperinflated, and it's just not giving you the full picture. And it's not pointing out to some of the very important points. I'm not going to say they're positive or negative. That is up to you, I think, to decide once I give you my train of thought. So, I have here the ruling, and I'm in page 4 of the syllabus, but the reason why I made this video is because this particular sentence caught my eye. Basically, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, what it does is it overturns Roe v. Wade, gives the responsibility back into the states. Now, in the first 4 pages of the syllabus, the Supreme Court argues. Who wrote the opinion in the end? Does it say here? It's the slip opinion. I don't remember who wrote the opinion I don't know who wrote this whole thing. It's 213 pages long, so if you want to read it, go for it. I've only been reading the syllabus, which is basically the summary, and then they go to reference all the different cases, all the reasoning behind it. And so far from the summary, it's two main points that I've seen so far. Number one, the argument from Roe versus Wade and the case of Casey was that the 14th Amendment grants you the right to liberty and privacy so that you can make these decisions privately and freely. And the Supreme Court has found that not only does the historical precedent contradict this, but that the arguments used in Roe and Casey were not strong enough to justify the 14th Amendment argument. And my friends in America, I know that a lot of you don't like the Constitution, but I've come to understand more or less what the whole point is. Your federal government shouldn't be the one making these decisions. This should be down to your local community, your local jurisdiction. And this is precisely what the Supreme Court has ruled. The Supreme Court did not ban abortions. They overturned the case that made it mandatory. The nation's, as I have it here highlighted, the nation's historical understanding of ordered liberty does not prevent the people's elected representatives from deciding how abortion should be regulated. So, what this ruling basically does is it washes the hands off of the federal government in a way of speaking, and it just tells the states, it's your problem. If you read the syllabus, you will see how the main idea I'm getting from is that, one, it seems that the proceedings weren't entirely done too well in the original Roe versus Wade and the case of Casey. Two, it seems that the arguments for the saying that abortion is granted by the 14th Amendment weren't as strong as they should have been. And because of that, the court is not ruling against abortion itself. They're basically saying these cases did not make the necessary arguments to justify us as the federal government protecting the granting this right, or this is not a right, this is not reflected in the Constitution. From what I'm seeing, this from what I remember, I think down the line in one of these other pages, basically they just mentioned that this also goes against the 10th Amendment. That is, the federal government cannot impose things that aren't, basically already in the Constitution upon other states, upon the states. That's for the states to decide. So, lesson that I see from here: don't just vote the federal, vote your local jurisdictions as if they were their own countries, because that's what the United States is. You have 50 different countries, all with an overarching federal government, and some of these countries are constitutional republics, some of these countries are multicultural democracies. Vote local. Vote local. If you want abortions in your state, vote local. Vote local. This ruling from the Supreme Court guarantees that the federal government will not interfere. So vote local. If you want abortions, if you don't want abortions, doesn't matter. Vote local. That's the whole thing. That's what this ruling was about. I think it's fair. I wouldn't want Moscow to determine what goes on in Spain. I wouldn't want Tokyo to determine what goes on in Hong Kong. I wouldn't want Sydney to say what goes on in Australia. And not in Australia. Well, I don't want what Sydney has to do in Australia, because Sydney has no say in it. It's Canberra. No, but I'm saying, like, these places shouldn't be that far apart. I wouldn't want Argentina to have a say on what goes in Guatemala. They're not there. They are have different interests based on the local community. Because it's all about your local community at the end of the day. Vote local. That's the thing. And the second major point I wanted to bring up, I remember a few years ago, especially when I was in the US, the argument on the pro-choice movement was not for elective abortions. It wasn't, if I feel like it, I should have an abortion. The arguments presented were always, if it is rape, if it is incest, if it is the life of the mother is in danger, abortions should be legal, they should be done. That was always the argument that was presented, because it is a genuinely solid, and it's a genuine appeal. I think it's a genuine argument that makes sense, it adds up, and I think it's what it should be. Now, with this ruling, we have seen 13 states with trigger laws in the US. And my conclusion after seeing this is the pro-choice movement won. The pro-choice movement won. Hands down, overwhelmingly, the pro-choice movement was successful. Because these 13 states that have trigger laws for when Roe v. Wade were to be overturned, if Roe v. Wade were to be overturned, they would instate restrictions on abortion. I have here from Vox. I usually don't like Vox because they've become kind of a tabloid, but they were the only ones that I saw that would give a quick overview on what this is. Out of the 13 states, 3 states, Kentucky, Louisiana, and South Dakota, are the only ones that do not give the exemptions of rape, incest, and life of the mother in danger. The other 10 states do. That includes Texas, Mississippi, North Dakota, Tennessee. I don't know if Florida is in there, but it's the other 10. That means the other 37 states will stay as they are. 3 states, and as far as I know, the other 37 states will either stay as they are, or they will now start doing the hearings and they will start doing the court processes, which means for at least 2 or 3 years, things will stay as they are. Because if there's something that is slow, it's the courts. They are slow as hell. But my main argument here is, out of the 50 states that exist, 3 have imposed total bans. That is an overwhelming number of states that have just allowed for the initial pro-choice movement. The ones that say, we don't want you to kill the baby, we don't want you to kill the fetus to terminate the pregnancy. We want it to be safe, however, so if these things do happen, then, they happen. Some of these states, they do ask for you to file a police report in order to be able to do these. That's bureaucracy. I'm not the biggest fan, especially after going through immigration in 2 of very difficult immigration countries for a Latino. I'm iffy on that part. But the concessions are there. If you talk to a conservative, if you talk to somebody who's right-wing, the overwhelming majority, even my mom, Guatemalan, who was born in the 1960s, hyper-Catholic, hyper-conservative Guatemalan, she has said, okay, rape, incest, life of the mother in danger, yes, those should happen. Those should be allowed to happen. Because in this case, it's an ethical argument. The whole argument right now from the right is elective abortion shouldn't be a thing. You should be responsible for yourself, not the government. The government should not be taking responsibility for any individual unless external factors are in play. So, I understand where they're coming from. It's I would be inclined to agree. As I've said, I'm not here to make any moral arguments myself. But given how the pro-choice movement was a few years ago, that wasn't about post-birth abortions. And I know that's the extreme case, but there are states in the union that have allowed for post-birth abortions. This is a huge win for the pro-choice movement, because even after Roe v. Wade has been overturned, 47 states still allow for abortions, meeting the arguments of the pro-choice movement, meeting the concessions. The concessions are there. The pro-choice movement won. If you want elective up to the point of birth and after birth abortions, there is a movement growing right now. I'm gonna call it the neo-choice movement, where they want to say it's no longer about abortion. It shouldn't be abortion, because abortion, by definition, is terminating the pregnancy by stopping the pregnancy by terminating the fetus, the life of the fetus. This new movement wants an initiative where we have incubators now. The babies can survive up to like 7 months outside the womb with the technology that we have now. Implement an initiative. I don't know. Some ask for private, some ask for public. I would personally go for private, charity-based initiatives, so that the woman doesn't want the baby. Just have these charities take care of them. Have them take care of them. Have them cover the costs. Have them cover the supplies, everything that the woman might need, so that the baby can be extracted as early as possible, put in an incubator, stayed alive, and then the woman just signs off. Baby gets put up to adoption right away. I like the idea of that movement. I don't know how viable it is. It's a nice ideal movement, and I think it's a good compromise. I think it's a good compromise to allow for this. I don't think the federal government of the United States should do this. I don't think a government should do this. Like, the more I see this kind of stuff, the more I interact with governments, the more I want just to be able to do, these things by private initiative. But I imagine if you were to propose this on a large scale as an olive branch from the pro-abortion movement to the pro-life movement, I think the pro-life movement would get their shoes on, put their pants on, and get to work on making sure this concession were to be made. We ask you to be inconvenienced for the 7 months that you are pregnant, until we can get the baby out, get the baby safe, get the baby to stay alive, and you go on to the rest of your life. You go on to live the rest of your life. We are going to take care of this baby. We're going to make sure that the baby gets a life. I think this could work if enough people decide to come together in this. I think this could work. I think the pro-life people, I think even the Catholic Church themselves and other churches would most likely be in favor. How much this would be corrupted would remain to be seen. But seeing that this would be the most compromise, I think, would be without abandoning the things. Because in the end, the woman gets to free herself from the baby, and this would have to be voluntary. It sounds very complicated. It sounds like a very complicated thing. But at this point, I'm already rambling. I'm already just going through this. My main point was, I'm reading through this thing, through the opinion. The more I'm reading about this, the more I am, the more I'm seeing how this overturning was more on procedural. It seems like it was more on procedural rather than merit, or a lack of merit rather than them giving a complete dismissal. The case was not the case was not dismissed anymore. The case is not that it can't be brought up anymore. It can be brought up again, but the arguments need to meet a more specific criteria. The argument that they make, I think, here in page 4 or 5, yes, page 4, is that the concept of existence was too much to prove, and the criteria used for making the argument was way too broad and could have been used to argue for illicit drug use, prostitution, and the like. Make of that what you will. I think it makes sense that the court saw that this was way too broad a reasoning, so we don't want to deal with this. It's not expressly mentioned in the Constitution, so just go tell your governor about this. Basically, go tell your governor. Go tell your local state house about this. We don't want to deal with this. Seems to be what happens. Which, lesson 1: vote local. Don't just vote for the president. Don't just vote for your house representative or your senator. Vote local. Go to your local commons. Go to your local governing house. See who is representing you at the local level. See who's your mayor, and that's where you have to do your stuff. That's where you have to do your stuff. Because at the end of the day, especially if you're one of my friends in California, that's at the other side of the country. DC is at the other side of the country. They don't know what your life is like. They might know somewhat what your life is like. They might have lived there a while back, but they're in DC. They're not there with you. Vote local. Be with your local community. That's, I think, is the greatest takeaway from this. And pro-choice won. Pro-choice won. 47 states have the concessions the pro-choice movement had been asking for such a long time. I think that's a good compromise. And then the other thing I was rambling about. But either way, I am rambling again. I just wanted to make this video because I'm seeing so many of my friends so incredibly angry, and I would say justifiably so, by how things are being presented, and I am not seeing nuance from a more neutral perspective. Because I see the arguments from the pro-abortion side, I'm seeing the arguments from the pro-life side, I remember the arguments from the pro-choice side, and I'm aside with the pro-choice. Reluctantly, but I will. So, yeah, that's this video. I went on for almost 24 minutes, so if you made it all the way here, thank you for listening, and I genuinely want to know your thoughts. Especially if you disagree with me, I want to hear your train of thought. That's just how I am. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. Take care. Take care of yourself. Take care of your local community. Vote local. Vote local.